সকল ভক্তবৃন্দ কি জয়।
জয়।
শ্রী শ্রী রাধা কৃষ্ণ গোপ গোপীনাথ শ্যাম কুন্দ রাধা কুন্দ গিরি গোवर्धन की जय।
জয়।
জয়।
वृंदावन धाम की जय।
জয়।
জয়।
नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय।
জয়।
गंगा माई की जय।
জয়।
यमुना माई की जय।
জয়।
तुलसी देवी की जय।
জয়।
भक्ति देवी की जय।
জয়।
समवेता भक्तवृंद की जय।
জয়।
गौर प्रेमानंदे।
হরি হরি বল।
All glories to the assembled devotees.
হরে
হরে
কৃষ্ণ।
কৃষ্ণ।
All glories to the assembled devotees.
হরে
হরে
কৃষ্ণ।
কৃষ্ণ।
All glories to the assembled devotees.
হরে
হরে
কৃষ্ণ।
কৃষ্ণ।
All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol.
গৌর হরি বল।
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ওম নমো
ভগবতে
ভগবতে
বাসুদেবায়।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ওম নমো ভগবতে বাসুদেবায়।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ওম নমো ভগবতে বাসুদেবায়।
We're reading and studying, discussing Sri Caitanya Caritamrita. Here we are at Lord Chaitanya's childhood and youth pastimes. Text number 83.
গঙ্গার মহত্ব সাধ্য সাধন তাহার বিষ্ণু পাদোৎপত্তি অনুমান অলঙ্কার।
The real glory of Mother Ganges is that she has grown from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Such a hypothesis is another ornament called Anuman.
স্থূল এই পঞ্চদোষ পঞ্চ অলঙ্কার সূক্ষ্ম বিচারিয়ে যদি আছয় অপার।
I have simply discussed the 5 gross faults and 5 literary embellishments of this verse. But if we consider it in fine detail, we will find unlimited faults.
প্রতিভা কবিত্ব তোমার দেবতা প্রসাদে অবিচার কাব্যে অবশ্য পরে দোষ বাধে।
You have achieved poetic imagination and ingenuity by the grace of your worshipable demigod. But poetry, not well reviewed, is certainly subject to criticism.
বিচারী কবিত্ব কইলে হয় সুনির্মল, শালঙ্কার হইলে অর্থ করে ঝলমল।
Poetic skill, used with due consideration, is very pure. With metaphors and analogies, it is dazzling.
শুনিয়া প্রভুর ব্যাখ্যা দিগ্বিজয়ী বিস্মিত, মুখে না নিঃস্বরে বাক্য প্রতিভা স্তম্ভিত।
After hearing the explanation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the champion poet was struck with wonder. His cleverness stunned. He could not say anything.
কহিতে চাহয় কিছু না আইসে উত্তর, তবে বিচারয় মনে হইয়া ফাঁফর।
He wanted to say something, but no reply would come from his mouth. He then began to consider this puzzle within his mind.
পড়ুয়া বালক কইল মোর বুদ্ধি লোপ, জানি সরস্বতী মোরে করিয়াছেন কোপ।
This mere boy has blocked my intelligence. I can therefore understand that Mother Saraswati has become angry with me. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that all intelligence comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. The Paramatma gave the Pandit the intelligence to understand that because he was proud of his learning and wanted to defeat even the Supreme Lord, by the will of the Lord and through the agency of Mother Saraswati, he had been defeated. One should not, therefore, be too proud of one's position. Even if one is a greatly learned scholar, if he commits an offense to the lotus feet of the Lord, he will not be able to speak properly, in spite of his learning. In every respect, we are controlled. Our only duty, therefore, is to surrender always to the lotus feet of the Lord and not be falsely proud. Mother Saraswati created the situation to favor the champion Pandit so that he might surrender unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Sthapitang Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupa Katahmahyam Dadati Sha Pandantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I'd like to ask the permission and blessings of the devotees all, and especially those who are senior by age or advancement in Krishna consciousness. Please. Thank you. Thank you for attending this morning, taking the trouble to attend the Caitanya Caritamrita class, hearing about Lord Chaitanya, the most recent incarnation of Lord Krishna, and the incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga, who's in the same category as Krishna, Krishna Varnam, same category as Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, following the Digvijay Pandit's exclamation that somehow his intelligence was blocked, and he attributed here to Mother Saraswati becoming angry with him. He had been used to not having his intelligence blocked, but somehow it was surprised that this had happened. So that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, maybe many of you know that verse that Srila Prabhupada is referring to in the first line there. Do you know that verse? Anybody?
Sarvasya chaham iti sannivishto.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that the verse, Prabhu?
Yes. Can you complete
Sarvasya
it?
chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir gnanam apohanam cha. Vedescha
Then,
sarva ahameva vedya vedantakrit vedavid eva cha.
and the translation.
I'm situated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and intelligence. And from all the Vedas, I am the one to be known, and I am the knower of the Vedas.
Yeah, I'm compiler of the Vedas and the knower of the Vedas as it is. Yeah, Vedas, Vedavit, Evacha, Vedavit. I know the Vedas. Yeah, Vedanta Krit. I am the compiler of Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. Yeah. So ultimately, he's thinking in this one that a particular demigod, specifically Mother Saraswati, has been delivering him intelligence to be able to conquer all these different pundits around India. And she did, but it was only by the will and arrangement of Lord Krishna. The demigods, no matter how great they are, without the sanction of Lord Krishna, they can't give anything. Mayayava vihitan hitan. So Mother Saraswati had been giving the Digvijay Pandit talent, abilities, intelligence to debate many pundits around India. But when the Supreme Personality of Godhead was faced with Digvijay Pandit, she wasn't able to deliver that intelligence. And in fact, under the order of Lord Caitanya, the wishes of Lord Chaitanya, she made him bewildered. So the verse was, Mata Smritir Gyanam. From me comes remembrance, Smritir, Gyanam, knowledge. And the next one, Apohanam. What's Apohanam? Apohanam means
Forgetfulness.
forgetfulness. Yeah, so that Apohanam also here came from, or forgetfulness or mistakes came from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, sitting within the core of Keshava Kashmiri's heart. So this is, and why did it come? Well, Prabhupada mentions that it came because of his pride in his position of being a learned Pandit. So we learn in the Bhagavad Gita that there's a process of knowledge. It's in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Lord Krishna describes to Arjuna a process of knowledge. And it's interesting that Prabhupada uses that word, the process of knowledge. And it starts with amanitvam adambitvam. You know this? Amanitvam adambitvam. Humility, pridelessness. Yeah. Acharyupashanam. Yeah. Ahimsa. These things. So Srila Prabhupada explains in a purport in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, discussing the appearance of Lord Buddha, but not the Lord Buddha in this particular Kali Yuga, and a different Kali Yuga, that Lord Buddha taught sub-religious principles, the sub-religious principles of ahimsa, non-violence to animals. And then he says, but even to understand the sub-religious principle of ahimsa, it requires the first two things, amanitvam, adambitvam. One has to be a little bit, at least somewhat, humble and prideless. So this lesson being given to Keshava Kashmiri, and also for us, if we want to really understand spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, it's essential that we don't consider ourselves learned scholars or very highly intelligent people, but we're willing to submit in a humble way to hear from an authorized source, especially the Vedas, and as given to us by a pure devotee, a spiritual master, a guru. So this is very nice. And here in the last part, ordinarily you think if you're defeated in debate, that's a bad thing, isn't it? If you're debating with someone and they defeat you, that's a bad thing. But here in the last line, Srila Prabhupada points out that this was Mother Saraswati's blessing. She favored the Pandit by encouraging him then to take shelter and surrender to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So sometimes reverses in life, we may take it as a difficulty or a failure, but if they encourage us to take shelter more of Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, then that's a great favor, a great boon. Mother Queen Kunti said that Krishna, when we were facing so many difficulties, you would come there for us to help us. So better we get difficulties, because that way we always remember you. So in that sense, difficulties can be seen as a great benefit for us, because in facing the difficulties, if we practice surrendering to Krishna and remembering Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that can make our advancement in Krishna consciousness very swift. Comments or questions? Observations?
I have a question. And
Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. Yes.
thank you. When this verse was read, I noticed that you have translated intelligence as jnana. But jnana and buddhi, the verse, I was thinking which verse you're going to refer. So the verse which referred, it says that it says, no, I give the jnana, I give the knowledge. Another place, Krishna,
Yes.
what he gives, I give the intelligence. So how will we take it here? How should we?
I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Jnana and jnana is knowledge. Intelligence
Yes.
is. So the verse was referred is Mata Buddhi Mata. From me,
Mata Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Chaya.
So Smriti, remembrance, and jnana is said, but here it says the block intelligence. So jnana is the knowledge, and intelligence is the discrimination power.
Yes,
See,
yes.
knowledge, but not able to take the right decision. So
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, which verse is this the correct verse we can refer, or because Krishna other place also he says I give intelligence also, one place at least I see.
Okay, so what verse are you considering?
Is 10.11 or 12? Dadami
Tesham Satadi Yuktana.
Yeah.
Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Yena Mam Upayantite, right?
Yeah, that's one. Then I think
Tesham Ivanukaram Partam Aham Jnana Jam Tamaha Nashishami Atmabhavasto Jnana Dipena Bashvata. The next one.
those that's what he says, but he says one who surrenders to me, then I give buddhi. Of course, buddhi, intelligence also. But
he says Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudulabha. That one?
no, in the same verse itself. That's a different thing. But as 10.9 or 10.10, 10.11 only. So I was thinking which verse would refer here. Actually, that's a little confusion because
Just because of the difference between intelligence and jnana.
Yeah, please
Okay.
come suggest.
I don't know which one would that says he's situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma, and says from me comes intelligence. I mean, this is it's Srila Prabhupada saying it, not me saying it.
Yeah, intelligence.
So it's a little different. You're correct that intelligence and jnana are different. So you can extrapolate from this mata smriti or jnanam, mata smriti. Intelligence, as you mentioned, is the discriminatory power between different things. What is correct, what's not correct, that stuff. So we might extrapolate from what's said in 15:15 that intelligence also is coming from Krishna. What do you think?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
So is
Is
it
that
on a
Gopi?
day-to-day basis, is it more advisable to have buddhi as opposed to jnana? And sometimes, as you said previously, overintelligence in certain areas may lead to things that are not desirable. So in the general sense, is buddhi more desirable way to approach things?
Good question. In that verse in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't say he gives all kinds of intelligence. It says, Yena mam upayanti te. He gives that intelligence by which you can come to me. So all intelligence is coming from Krishna, but particularly for those who are devoted to him, he gives that intelligence to make progress in spiritual life. So that's spiritual intelligence or buddhi yoga. So intelligence, can be from a material standpoint, as you mentioned, can also be a source of going a different direction away from Krishna, because but that's material intelligence, and all material, everything is coming from Krishna. We know that. So I don't know. I didn't answer your question.
No,
What
I
is your-
think you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
All right.
Interestingly, from this verse, I feel like Kesav Kashmiri, right? So he felt like, oh, he understands. He had the knowledge that what's happening, everything there, but he was not able to take any action, because like sometimes you're like dark, blocked in his intelligence, you're like stunned kind of thing. Situation. I have a feeling that he understood full thing. He had the knowledge, but he was not able to do.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. This is at the end of this section. We'll see more. So yeah, you rightly pointed out that intelligence and jnana are not exactly the same thing. Even though we know in other ways that both intelligence and jnana both are sourced from Paramatma or Krishna. How is it that a baby, when they're just born, they have the sucking response or sucking behavior? How does that happen? Where does it come from? If they didn't, they'd be in trouble. Yeah, it comes from super soul. We call it instinct, but it's coming from Krishna. Okay. We'll consider what you say as we go on, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
যে ব্যাখ্যা করিল সে মনুষ্যের নহে শক্তি, নিমাই মুখে রহি বলে আপনে সরস্বতী।
The wonderful explanation the boy has given could not have been possible for a human being. Therefore, Mother Saraswati must have spoken personally through his mouth.
এত ভাবি কহে শুনো নিমাই পণ্ডিত, তব ব্যাখ্যা শুনি আমি হইলাম বিস্মিত।
Thinking thus, the Pandit said, "My dear Nimai Pandit, please hear me. Hearing your explanation, I am simply struck with wonder." It's interesting that even though he's defeated, he doesn't get angry at him. He says, Lord Chaitanya had previously asked him, please don't get angry with me if I criticize you. And so here he's responding, Keshav Kashmiri, my dear Nimai Pandit, please, yeah.
অলংকার নাই পড়ো নাহি শাস্ত্রাভ্যাস কেমনে এসব অর্থ করিলে প্রকাশ
I am surprised. You're not a literary student and do not have long experience in studying the Shastras. How have you been able to explain all these critical points?
ইহা শুনি মহাপ্রভু অতি বড় রঙ্গী তাহার হৃদয় জানি কহে করি ভঙ্গি
Hearing this and understanding the Pandit's heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied in a humorous way.
শাস্ত্রের বিচার ভালো মন্দ নাহি জানি সরস্বতী যে বলায় সেই বলি বাণী
My dear sir, I do not know what is good composition and what is bad. But whatever I have spoken must be understood to have been spoken by Mother Saraswati. Why is that funny? Why do you take that as funny?
It's coming from God himself.
Yes, yes. We know that, Lord Krishna has all knowledge. Lord Chaitanya is the same as Lord Krishna in a different mood. So we say that God is Satchidananda Vigraha. He is full of eternity. Chit means knowledge, full of knowledge. So he doesn't need Mother Saraswati, but he's speaking this way. There's another reason also why this might be humorous. Prananath Prabhu, I saw your hand up before, but then you put it down. Anybody?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it because he mentioned Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned Mother Saraswati and Mother Saraswati Keshav he kind of had the pride of having Mother Saraswati on his side. Is that right?
Yes. And he was thinking, oh, this must have been said by Mother Saraswati. He was thinking that. He didn't tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he says that here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that. He says, and on top of that, he says, I don't know anything. Here's the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, I don't know what's a good or bad karma. I don't know anything. So that's a little funny. Lord God is saying, I don't know anything. I don't know good or bad. But it must have been because of Mother Saraswati, who is actually the servant of Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, so there's humor in Krishna consciousness, apparently, yes. You know that. Okay.
ইহা শুনি দিগ্বিজয়ী করিল নিশ্চয় শিশু দ্বারে দেবী মোরে কইল পরাজয়
When he heard this judgment from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Pandit sorrowfully wondered why Mother Saraswati wanted to defeat him through a small boy. So he didn't get the humor so much, it looked like.
আজি তারে নিবেদিব করি জপ ধ্যান শিশু দ্বারে কইল মোরে এত অপমান
I shall offer prayers and meditation to the goddess of learning, the champion concluded, and ask her why she insulted me so greatly through this boy. So he's still smarting a little bit from this defeat. He hasn't, even though he said, my dear Nirmai Pandit, still there's something doesn't sit right with him quite. And he's feeling insulted me so greatly. Wow.
It's almost like he was probably angry, but he,
something. Yeah, you might conclude a little bit of that. Sure. And of course, because of Lord Chaitanya did this. Part of the reason he did this because of the Kashmiri's pride. So of course, if you have the pride, when we have pride, certainly we get a little bit irritated when someone curbs our pride. It happens. So it's,
বস্তুতঃ সরস্বতী অশুদ্ধ শ্লোক করাইল, বিচার সময় তার বুদ্ধি আচ্ছা দিল।
Saraswati had in fact induced the champion to compose his verse in an impure way. Furthermore, when it was discussed, she covered his intelligence. And thus the Lord's intelligence was triumphant.
তবে শিষ্যগণ সব হাসিতে লাগিল, তা সবা নিষেধী প্রভু কবিরে কহিল।
When the poetic champion was thus defeated, all the Lord's disciples sitting there began to laugh loudly. Ooh. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked them not to do so. And he addressed the poet as follows.
তুমি বড় পণ্ডিত, মহাকবি শিরোমণি, যার মুখে বাহিরায় ওইছে কাব্যবাণী।
You are the most learned scholar and topmost of all great poets. For otherwise, how could such fine poetry come from your mouth?
তোমার কবিত্ব যেন গঙ্গা জল ধার, তোমা সম কবি কোথা নাহি দেখিয়ার।
Your poetic skill is like the constant flow of the waters of the Ganges. I find no one in the world who can compete with you.
ভবভূতি, জয়দেব আর কালিদাস, তা সবার কবিত্বে আছে দোষের প্রকাশ।
Even in the poetic compositions of such great poets as Bhavabhuti, Joyadev, and Kalidas, there are many examples of faults.
দোষ গুণ বিচার এই অল্প করি মানি, কবিত্বকরণের শক্তি তাহা সে বাখানি।
Such mistakes should be considered negligible. One should see only how such poets have displayed their poetic power. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11, it is said, Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadyavatyapi namanyanantasya yashon kitani jat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. In explaining the glories of the Lord, inexperienced men may compose poetry with many faults. But because it contains glorification of the Lord, great personalities read it, hear it, and chant it. Despite its minute literary discrepancies, one must study poetry on the merit of its subject matter. According to Vaishnava philosophy, any literature that glorifies the Lord, whether properly written or not, is first class. There need be no other considerations. The poetic compositions of Bhavabhuti or Shrikanta include Malati Madhava, Uttara Charita, Vira Charita, and many similar Sanskrit dramas. This great poet was born during the time of Bhojaraj as the son of Nilkant, a Brahmin. Kalidas flourished during the time of Maharaj Vikramaditya, and he became the state poet. He composed some 30 or 40 Sanskrit dramas, including Kumar Shambhava, Abhigyan Shakuntala, and Meghaduta. His drama, Raghuvangsha, is especially famous. We have already described Jayadev in chapter 13 of the Adi Lila. So the point being that the effort to glorify Lord Krishna in the proper way, following the great authorities, is to be appreciated, even if there's some mistake or some small deviation in the composition. When Srila Prabhupada brought his books, 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam with him to the United States, one of the first things he asked devotees to do when they became a little serious was he asked them to look them over and edit some of their the translations of the books. So one of the things that was when in the Srimad Bhagavatam verse it said, "Oh the king," in referring to Maharaj Parikshit, "Oh the king." So Hayagriva Prabhu, who was first tasked with editing, he said, "Does that mean the king was named O?" So Srila Prabhupada said, no. So then he's, "Oh, you mean, oh king, such and such." So they said, yeah, Prabhupada said, change it. So it might be a little bit misunderstanding if you say, "Oh, the king." So they changed it. So some small things like that have been edited. But despite that, some people, they still appreciate those original books that Srila Prabhupada brought over from India. There's a certain quaint but very real ecstasy that's in reading those original books. So the BBT reprinted them, and I don't know if they're available still, but they were available sometime back. The copies of the original volumes, the first 3 volumes of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you know these poetic persons? Bhavabhuti, you know him? Have you heard of Bhavabhuti before? No. Jayadev missed people. Jayadev, Kalidas are more famous, but Bhavabhuti, yeah. So Lord Chaitanya, Keshava Kashmiri was a little depressed after being defeated by Lord Chaitanya, this boy, but Lord Chaitanya seems to be pacifying him, glorifying him a little bit to help him get by his depression here. Next.
সেই সব চাপল্য কিছু না লবে আমার, শিষ্যের সমান মই না হও তোমার।
I am not even fit to be your disciple. Therefore, kindly do not take seriously whatever childish impudence I have shown.
আজি বাসা যাহ, কালি মিলিব আবার, শুনিব তোমার মুখে শাস্ত্রের বিচার।
Please go back home, and tomorrow we may meet again so that I may hear discourses on the Shastras from your mouth.
এই মতে নিজ ঘরে গেলা 2 জন, কবি রাত্রে কইল সরস্বতী আরাধন।
In this way, both the poet and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went back to their homes. And at night, the poet worshipped Mother Saraswati, just like he said he was going to do. Yeah. So it's interesting that when there's some problem, we don't understand how things go. He's approaching his patron, Mother Saraswati, and so that happens with us. Sometimes we want to sit down and consider and pray to Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, to understand what's going on here. No. Text 106.
সরস্বতী স্বপ্নে তারে উপদেশ কইল, সাক্ষাৎ ঈশ্বর করি প্রভুকে জানিল।
In a dream, the goddess informed him of the Lord's position. And the poetic champion could understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself.
রাতে আসি প্রভু পদে লইল শরণ, প্রভু কৃপা কইল তার খণ্ডিল বন্ধন।
The next morning, the poet came to Lord Chaitanya and surrendered unto his lotus feet. The Lord bestowed his mercy upon him and cut off all his bondage to material attachments. Purport. The same process, advocated by Lord Sri Krishna in his teachings of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, surrender unto me in all instances, was advocated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The champion surrendered unto the Lord, and the Lord favored him. One who is favored by the Lord is freed from material bondage. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam iti sarjuna. Meaning, when you give up, this is the end of the verse, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata, then Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam iti sarjuna. So one who can, who really understands, scrutinizingly understands the birth and activities of the Lord, like we're trying to understand here. After taking this body, after leaving this body, they don't take another birth, O Arjun, Lord Krishna is saying. Yeah. So it's interesting that Lord Chaitanya, after defeating him, he joked, and then he was very humble, calling himself an impudent person and this. And so in spite of that, the Keshav Kashmiri understood by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Mother Saraswati. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that way he understood. He's a very advanced person. He understood, oh, I must now surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and accept the shelter of his feet. Yeah, very interesting.
ভাগ্যবন্ত দিগ্বিজয়ী সফল জীবন বিদ্যা বলে পাইল মহাপ্রভুর চরণ.
The poetic champion was certainly most fortunate. His life was successful by dint of his vast learning and erudite scholarship, and thus he attained the shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Narottam Das Thakur has sung that the best qualification for taking shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya is to be the most fallen, because the Lord came specifically to deliver the fallen souls. In this age, there are very few scholars. Almost everyone is a fallen meat-eater, drunkard, woman hunter, or gambler. Such persons are never considered learned scholars, even if they pose as such. Because these so-called scholars superficially see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu associates with the fallen souls, they think that he is meant for a lower class of men, but that they do not need him. Thus, such scholars do not take to the Krishna consciousness movement. To be puffed up with false learning, therefore, is a disqualification for accepting the Krishna consciousness movement. But here is a special example, for although the poetic champion was a greatly learned scholar, the Lord also favored him because of his humble submission. So that Srila Prabhupada used to give the example, if you have many zeros and you add it up, 1,000 zeros, 5,000 zeros, 1,000,000 zeros, and you add them all together, what is the sum of all that?
Zero.
Zero, yeah, zero, yeah. You know your math, right? Zero. So then, but if you put a 1 in front of all those zeros, it can be 100, 1,000, 1,000,000. Yeah, so that 1, you put 1 in the beginning, then it becomes a huge sum. So similarly, being a learned scholar or whatever other material qualifications we have, without Krishna consciousness, zero sum, zero. But if you use all those things, you're scholarly, like here in the case of Keshav Kashmiri, he can be a learned scholar and use it in the service of the Lord, then it becomes very valuable, a great boon. And an important point was he took that position of being humbly submitting to Lord Chaitanya after being defeated by him. Text 109.
And do we have we learnt this song by Sri Narottam Das Thakur?
Yes. Oh, I don't know. It's that one that they used to sing in the morning at the temple. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Doya Kora More, Toma Bina Ke Doyalu, Jagat Samsare, Potit Pavana Hetu, Prabhavata, Moshama Potita Prabhu no Poibya. Yeah, so Patit Pavana Hetu. Hetu means the cause. You've come to deliver Patit, the fallen people. Pavana, Patit Pavana Hetu. Tav Avatar. That's why you're come. That's why you've come. Moshama Potita Prabhu no Poibya. I can't. You won't find anybody as fallen as me. Therefore, my claim is first. You must take me, please. And so that's the idea here. Most, if we're fallen, okay, that's not a disqualification. Or if we're fallen, okay, then Lord Chaitanya has come for you. Or come for us. Come for us, not you. Yes. Which is a little bit reassuring.
এইসব লীলা বর্ণিয়াছেন বৃন্দাবন দাস, যে কিছু বিশেষ ইহা করিল প্রকাশ।
Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has described all these incidents elaborately. I have only presented the specific incidents he has not described.
চৈতন্য গোসাইর লীলা অমৃতের ধার, সর্বেন্দ্রিয় তৃপ্ত হয় শ্রবণে যাহার।
The nectarian drops of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes can satisfy the senses of everyone who hears them.
শ্রীরূপ রঘুনাথ পদে যার আশ, চৈতন্য চরিতামৃত কহে কৃষ্ণদাস।
Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 16th chapter, describing the pastimes of the Lord in his childhood and youth. Any comments or reflections, corrections about this?
I have.
Yes.
Thank you so much for reading this. Even though this conversation, this pastime is not very easy, because especially it involves the grammar, but you did very nicely explained. And it's relishable. Otherwise, sometimes technical stuff,
It's hard.
like it. So thank you for that. Actually, really, it went very, very smooth this past time, what you mentioned. I was contemplating as in order to establish, he's the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna also, Lord also sends his associates to help him in his Leela. So we understood from this pastime that fault is there. It was not his, Lord Chaitanya's mission was really not to find fault in him, because the verse speaks about everybody. No one can compose 100% perfect apart from the Supreme Lord. So fault was there, but I think the whole purpose, I understand, is not the finding fault. Rather, the devotees of the Lord help him in his glorification, so that the Lord is glorified. So I want to see your comment on this. And if that is the case, who was Kesava Kashmiri?
Well, I thought you said it pretty nicely. That was an excellent comment. I mean, we know that Keshava Kashmiri, he was he identified himself as a devotee of goddess Saraswati. But after this, after surrendering to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he counted himself as a Vaishnava, and according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he revived the sampradaya of the Kumar sampradaya, whose head was Nimbarkashami in Kali Yuga. So the whole part of this Leela is to bring him back to a service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we say that there are four sampradayas, four Vaishnava sampradayas in Kali Yuga that are extant, one of them being the Kumar sampradaya. But actually, if you read the commentaries of the six Goswamis, they describe, they comment about the other sampradayas, like the Madhva sampradaya, the Ramanuja sampradaya. Even there's some discussion of the Rudra sampradaya of the commentary of Vishnugada, but they don't comment at all about the Nimbarka or the Kumar sampradaya philosophy. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that means, the most likely thing is that means that at the time of Lord Chaitanya, that sampradaya had practically been lost. And so he says that Keshav Kashmiri, by his association with Lord Chaitanya, revived the Nimbarkashami sampradaya. And that the current followers of Nimbarkashami actually are coming through Keshav Kashmiri, who was given this instruction and mercy from Lord Chaitanya, which is very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, thank you. So that's what I felt, like the purpose is something different. It's not just showing him loyal here. He got the mercy, and the Lord has a higher purpose. I felt like on this. Oh, I didn't know that Keshav Kashmiri has helped in reviving the sampradaya. Okay.
Yeah. And how that works, I'm not exactly sure, because like Lord Chaitanya met Vallabhacharya,
Yeah.
who revived the Vishnu Shami Sampradaya. Why didn't he just become part of the Gaudiya Sampradaya? I can't say. I don't know, but that was Rudra Sampradaya. Here, Keshav Kashmiri, why didn't he just get counted as part of the Gaudiya Sampradaya? But no, he is understood as, at least according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, as reviving the Nimbarka Shami Sampradaya, the Kumar Sampradaya. Very interesting. Very interesting. And, as Gaudiyas, as followers of the Gaudiya, Madhva Gaudiya, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, we respect, and our acharyas respect all of the four sampradayas because they give bona fide information about Krishna consciousness, surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engaging in devotional service to Him. That's why, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established the Chaitanya Gaudiya Math in Mayapur, in that Gaudiya Math, they have the murtis of the four heads of the four sampradayas as part of their worship. And I think that's the same thing is true in Chaupati Temple, isn't it? In Mumbai.
I haven't seen it.
Yes, they have they do the appreciation of the four heads of the four sampradayas. And besides that, there may be some slight differences in the different sampradayas, but the similarities and their purposes are most important, more important than any of the slighter differences. He also commented that all the sampradayas are wonderful because they're teaching Krishna Bhakti. And Lord Chaitanya mentions that he took two aspects of each sampradaya to incorporate in the Gaudiya line. Yeah, as in his philosophy of Chinta Beda Ve Tattva. So, for example, from the Ramanuja Sampradaya, he took the importance of devotional service without contamination of karma and gyan. From Ramanuja Sampradaya. From the Madhva Sampradaya, the complete defeat of Mayavad and the strict worship of this deity as an eternal principle, worship of the Murti as eternal principle. From the Nimbarka Sampradaya, he took taking shelter of Srimati Radharani as important part, and really appreciating the bhakti of the Vraj Gopis, these things. So, but Lord Chaitanya incorporated all of those. So, because Lord Chaitanya, being Krishna himself, he said that all of these different sampradayas are like different sweetmeats, like gulab jamun, sandesh, rasagula, cham cham. But the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because of his presence and his teaching, the Gaudiya Sampradaya is like all of those sweetmeats, but with some extra vitamins, infused with extra vitamins put in there by Lord Chaitanya's bhava and instruction, his mood and his instruction. Like that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo
Pyo namo namaha.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hey.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji.